All right, day 5. Which way should we go search? We're going to search in number 2. 1, 2. We're going to roll for a new terrain type. 5. Uplands. 1 to 6. So we're going to roll a d6 on the uplands table. A 1. There's a cul-de-sac here. Hey Wargamers, welcome back. Purple Druid here with another installment of Journey to the Trollfens featuring Brun-Dax and his company as we develop our Druid Quest solo and gaming program. Pardon my fingers, I did a little bit of painting and I sprayed my fingers, so please forgive me for that. Anyway, Druid Quest, we are prepared now for week number 4, 19 to 25 July, featuring Brun-Dax and company, who have, in our last episode, fled a combat where they were effectively slaughtered by, or not slaughtered, soundly defeated by Hyboria, Giant Mantises. And tonight they will be beginning at Hex 2224-7, where they will be out of action for 1 turn. And so let's take a look at that on our map. Here we have our map, and this is where the encounter took place, was in Hex 2124-28. And I know this is tricky to the numbering process is poor. I need to come up with a better, what's the word for it, nomenclature for labeling these hexes. But for right now, this is subhex number 1, this is subhex number 31, and we just count down rows like so. So for hex 2224, let's zoom in a little bit for you so you can see this better. There we go. Come on. Okay. Might be easier to just move the map. There we are. So, hex 2224. Hex number 7. Actually, I'm counting these by their terrain generation numbers, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which was this one, which you can still see the T3 there. That was our previous campsite. That is where they camped prior to their encounter. So they have fled, according to the abstract combat rules, fled back to their previous campsite, which is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin this week, because they lost the rest of that turn for flight, and now we're going to begin that turn in this hex. And because of everyone's wounds, if we go back and take a look, Karnesh and Raf are wounded. Brun-Dax was a casualty. He was badly wounded. Lorgan was a casualty. He was wounded and out of action for 1 turn. And the men-at-arms are all out of action for 1 turn. Now, Karnesh and Raf are wounded, but they are not out of action. So they will be able to do some things during this week while everyone else is healing. So Karnesh and Raf are going to be our active characters. And as you remember, Raf is an explorer, and Karnesh is a warrior, and both of them are level 2. So these two will be our active characters for this turn. And this is the terrain. This is where the Druids' Grove was. They camped further along. And again, all the details are in the previous video. So for right now, we're going to skip over here and start making our notes. And we're going to go through our turn process. So we're getting better at this. We're formalizing this. First of all, we have event cards. We're going to roll a d6. On a 1, we'll roll for an event. Nope, we have a 3. Okay. So now we're going to go to the solo Hexcrawl turn procedure. And plot 1, number 1, plot moves. We don't have any moves because we are out of action for 1 turn. We're going to roll for the weather. The weather last week was a 6. So if we look at our weather chart, we're going to roll 2d6, add them together, and because we are doing the weekly, we're going to roll for whatever weather type it could be. So it could be anything from 2 to 12, except for a monsoon. This is not monsoon season, so if we get a 12, we'll roll again. If we are rolling for daily, which we may, then we'll just change the rows. But we have another 6, so it will remain clear, and we'll roll another d6 for a 4, which means we have some wind. So we'll write 6 wind. All right. Number 3, roll for getting lost. We are not going to get lost because we are not traveling. Roll for terrain in each of the upcoming hexes. Again, we're not traveling. However, Dotraf and Karn-Esh will be doing some foraging, and we're going to do that on a daily basis. So we're going to go ahead and we will be doing some mapping in a little bit. So we'll roll for that terrain later. Roll for points of interest. Again, during the foraging, we'll do that. Roll for encounters. Roll 66. So for this week, we'll roll 66 for encounters. And we're in grasslands. So if we look at our table, grassland, the encounter / forage modifier is a +1. So we have 2 2s, a 5, a 6, and 2 7s. So these are no encounter. We have 2 nighttime encounters. No, that's not right. These are 5 and 6. These are no encounter. Number 4, we will find a natural. So we have 2 daytime encounters. And we'll roll on B. 2 encounters. And 1 natural feature or hazard. All right, the 2 encounters, a 1 and a 3. One of them is going to be from Blueholm, and the other will be from the Kal-Arath book. And our natural feature / hazard is going to be on table D, which I think you'll be excited to find that I have updated and added some things to. We changed the gully to ruin, and so now we have a little subtable for ruins. And 13, old campsite. It's an old campsite on a 1 to 50. It's a lair on 51 to 100. So there's a 50% chance that this is a monster lair. And then there's a 30% chance that that lair is occupied. So we're going to go ahead and roll a d20. And that's a 3. So we're going to find a dinosaur nest. And there is a 50% chance that that is occupied. So let's roll for that. 57. It is not occupied. And since it's July, this is not the season for eggs, so there will not be any eggs in the dinosaur nest. So let's go ahead and roll for our Kal-Arath monster. D66. Blue is our 10s. 43. Treasure Seekers. All right, that sounds interesting. And for blue hole, we'll roll a d8. A 5. We're in open terrain. Giants. Oh boy. Giants right here. We're going to roll a d12. Can you see that? That's a 3. A fire giant. Oh boy. All right. That's exciting. Okay. So continuing on, point of interest. While foraging, they're going to hit a point of interest. All right. Let's go ahead and roll for one of those. Page is that? Here we go. Point of interest. Blue is our 10s. 65. An outpost settlement filled with corpses. Well, that's not pretty at all. Okay. And we've rolled for encounters. And then we're going to do foraging on a daily basis. So we'll add the terrain modifier to that. And then we'll get to the end of our turn. So that brings up an important point. We are going to have to do the food track for each person from outdoor survival. And that requires a special setup. Okay, so here are the special rules for food and water modified from outdoor survival. We have a thirst track, we have a starvation track, and a movement track. These are 5-mile hexes and the daily amount of movement points that you would normally have in a 5-mile hex. So, for example, this is a 5-mile hex. If our characters are here, normally they can move 4 1-mile hexes per day in open terrain. So they would have 4 points to use to spend. But we're going to go ahead and roll because some of these might be hills, some of these might be forest, or what have you. So that will change that. And what we're going to do is each character we'll have a thirst track and a starvation track. So the first day they don't get to eat, they go on the tracks. That'll be 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they move. They'll move along this track. There are 8 spots. So each day without water, they'll move along here. The starvation track, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. So we'll track that along there. Each time they hit one of these -1s, they're going to move along the movement track. So after 2 days without water, they'll be at -1 movement, and after 2 days without food, they'll still be at -1. But after 4 days without water, they'll be at -2 and -1 for food. So they'll be a total of -3. So they'll go from here, 1, 2, 3. So they'll only have 3 movement points left, and so on and so forth. And this will change dramatically. Now, if they get some water here, they're going to stay here. And then if they don't get more water, they'll continue to move. So what will happen is this will rapidly cascade, and they'll be able to go. I know this is kind of heroic. I don't think that you can really go 8 days without water, but that's what the outdoor survival has. So that's what we're going to run with for right now. So let's go ahead and list our characters. We have Dotraf and Karn-Esh, who can actually do things. And then we have our wounded the men-at-arms are only out of action. So we have men-at-arms 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Karn-Esh is the 6th one. We have Lorgan, who is wounded, and we have Brun-Dax, who is badly wounded. Now, everyone is going to be at 1 because they have not had food or water. So let's make 7 of these little lines. And we're going to do this. So we're going to do the thirst track on top, the starvation track on the bottom. So everyone is at 1, 1 to start with. Now, Lorgan, because he's wounded, he's going to have an extra. So he's going to be at 2, 2. And Brun-Dax, because he's badly wounded, is going to be at 3, 3. So Brun-Dax is already at move -1. All right. So let's do some foraging and see if we can't find any water. Now we're going to use this map. We're going to use the campaign hexagon system. And for each of these 1 mile subhexes, we're going to roll on the campaign hexagon system to determine the interior terrain. So 5 mile hex terrain, we're looking at general open terrain. So we're going to roll a d10 for that. So the camp is here. And we're going to assume that it's lowlands because the river runs through it already. So we'll roll that again. let's see where we decide to forage. First of all, we have an encounter with a fire giant and an encounter with treasure seekers. So let's see what days those are on. The fire giant will occur on day 2, and the treasure seekers on day 1. Okay, well. Let's find our dice here. Okay, augury dice. We're going to roll the bones. Treasure seekers on day 1. Do they encounter the camp? Do they find the crew in the camp? Or do they encounter Dotraf and Karnesh while they're out foraging? So the question is, do they encounter the camp? Yes or no? And the answer is yes. So we're going to have the treasure seekers. Let's roll on our reaction check. Reaction table. Oh dear. Okay, reaction check right here. And of the 2 that are up, Dotraf has a presence of 1, so we're going to add a 1 to this roll. That's an 8, goes to a 9, so the treasure seekers will be friendly. Dotraf will tell them about the Druid Grove off to the south, and how there may be some treasures there. Do the treasure seekers, how do they respond? Let's see. They are neutral about that. Are they going to go check that out, or will they seek out something else? The answer is no. They will not seek it out. They will go seek something else. Okay, so they... Treasure seekers say thank you. And move on. All right, so treasure seekers, that's something we need to see. We need to keep an eye on them. All right, so now, where should they go? We're just going to roll randomly. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the camp. Area 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be lowlands. So they're going to continue along here. And like I said, we're next to the water, so everyone's going to get water. But they're down 1. So they're going to stay where they are at down 1. And depending on whether or not they can get food, that will be another question. So let's go to the forage table. And because we're in grasslands, that will be a +1 to this D6. Dotraf and Karnesh both get to roll. One has a 4 and one has a 3. The red die is Dotraf on a 1 to 2 or 3. So Dotraf actually rolls for foraging at advantage. That's her special ability as an explorer. So she gets a 4. So we have 2 4s. Good harvest, successful forage, gain 3 rations each. So day 1 foraging equals 6 rations. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. So that means that everyone is on short rations. So they're not going to drop, but they're not going to rise up either. So everyone is going to stay at where they are, including Lorgan and Brun-Dax, who are down quite a bit due to not having food at all. So this is going to be short. So we're going to write short here. And everyone's going to stay at their track. Now, day 2. We have water, so we're going to stay where we are. If we get water every day for a week, we'll bounce back up to 0. Lorgan will come up to 1, and Brun-Dax will come up to 2 because of their wounds. Day 2. Do we encounter the fire giant in our camp? Yes. All right. Let's make our reaction roll for the fire giant. And that is a 5 + 1 for .Raph's presence. That makes it a 6. The fire giant is hostile. Brun-Dax is badly wounded and out of action, cannot cast any spells. No one else has any magic. .Raph. Oh boy, what are we going to do? Let's find out what the what is the fire giant look, what is their motivation? So we're going to do blue 10s here, 54. The fire giant is looking to achieve greatness. It has 2 traits. We're going to do blue red and then black white. 44 and 62. He is distrusting. And 62 is wild. So he may be very difficult to deal with. What does he want? What is he looking for? In terms of attempting to achieve greatness. But right now, he's hostile. He's met these folks. What does he want? He wants 2. He wants metalwork or tools. He wants something of value, something real. Wants metalwork or tools. And what does he want them for? Well, black is the 10s, 23. There is a poisoned water source that he wants to... Let's roll on the potential conflicts table. And see what sort of threat this is to the fire giant, the poison water source. It's an internal conflict, some sort of local dispute or faction rivalry. Is it a faction rivalry, or is this a dispute with the druid? Because the druid is the other faction. Or the treasure seekers, maybe. Is it the treasure seekers? Yes. Okay. Does this rivalry... Oh, here we go. Does the poison water source affect the treasure seekers or the giant? Treasure seekers is yes. Yes, it affects the treasure seekers. Okay. The poison water source affects the treasure seekers, and he wants metalwork or tools. He wants to take something from the party so they can't aid the treasure seekers. So, what is something that they might have? Oh dear, let's see here. The characters. The characters don't have any tools, any obvious tools that could be used. No one has anything fancy. I don't see anything fancy on here. All right, so the fire giant is going to take their swords. He's going to take Karnesh's sword. Yeah, he's just going to he's going to disarm it. He's going to take Wargame's sword and javelins. This is bad. He's going to take Karnesh's spear. He's going to take their obvious weapons. Now, Tharos has a spear. He's going to take that. Moro has a spear. He's going to take that. The club and the bows, he's going to let him keep those because they can use those for hunting and such. But the actual hand-to-hand weapons, he's going to take all those. So the fire giant is going to takes all the swords and spears. All right, so luckily, that's the end of their encounters. They don't know that, but that's the end of their encounters for this week. So now we're going to go back to foraging. So for day 3, so they didn't get to forage because of the fire giant, the activities of the fire giant. So everyone is going to move down one more track on the food starvation track. So for water, they have water. They're camped next to the river. So they're going to stay at 1, and they're going to go down 1 for food. On day 3, Dotraf's going to forage, and Karnesh will forage. A 5 and a 4. Now on the foraging table, that's better. A 4 is a good harvest. That's 3 rations. Day 3. And a 5 is 5 rations. So they're going to find 3 and 5 rations for a total of 8. And which hex did we go to? That was hex number 3. 1, 2, 3. So let's go ahead and roll for our terrain. What kind of terrain did we discover here? On D10, that's a 7. All right, so just flora. So that's going to be grasslands. And flora, that was the... there is a flora table. Let's roll on the flora table. We are at subtropical. Roll a d20. It's 1. We find some flax. There's some flax growing here. That may be useful for later, but right now that's not really going to do us any good. All right. So that's the end of day 3. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people, 8 rations. So we're going to drop down 1 more. Which hex are we going to go look in? 3. Back here to the flax hex. Should they go further in hopes of maybe looking for something better? No. So let's go ahead and roll. We have a 5 and a 1. So a 5, we gain 5 rations. So we're still over half. We're on short rations. So we're going to stay the same. I'm just going to put those quote marks there. All right, day 5. Which way should we go search? We're going to search in number 2. 1, 2. We're going to roll for a new terrain type. 5. Uplands. 1 to 6. So we're going to roll a d6 on the uplands table. A 1. There's a cul-de-sac here. That is 30 to 180 feet wide and 30 to 180 feet tall. 3d6 times 10. Eight, 10, 100 feet wide. And 8, 14, 140 feet tall. Okay. So that will put us into hills for the foraging. Let's look at our turn sequence. Hills, no modifier for the foraging. A 5 and a 2. Two is hard luck. Your search yields very little. And a 5, which means we find 5 rations. And so we're going to stay put because we're still on short. Day 6. Let us search hex number 3. No, we don't want to search that one again. 4. Hex number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to come down here. The terrain there is a 10. Hydrographic. Hydrographic terrain means we're going to come over here and we're going to roll on this table. That's a 1. We are going to find a rivulet that is 2 to 12 feet wide. It is 11 feet wide. There's a rivulet here flowing its way to the river. It is 11 feet wide. And the depth is d6, 5 feet deep. And because we have encountered a rivulet, there's a 30% chance of an encounter. The black die is the 10s, 56, so there's no encounter. Hex D4, rivulet, 11 feet wide, 5 feet deep. No encounter. And river is +1 to foraging. So 2 7s. Nice. That is going to help us get back on track. Rare bounty. 5 rations each. 10 rations. And D6 doses of an herb from the following table. So let's see what herb it is. Herb 4, Valcash. D6 1, 20 silver pieces worth. All right, so we found some Valcash growing there. All right, and now the last day, because we got full rations today, we can bump up everybody here. So we're going to go 1 1. We're not going to cross the river. We're going to try one of these 2 hexes. One of these 3. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6. So we're going to come down here. We're going to roll on the table. That's a 4. Flatlands. So we come over here to Flatlands. Whoops, we roll a d20. It's a 5. Flora subtable. So Flora. Eight. Nightshade. Ooh. That might be valuable later. Let's see. You know what? Let's roll 2d6 for how many silver pennies that's worth. 8 silver pennies worth of Nightshade. So Nightshade. 8 silver pennies worth. And then for foraging, a 6 and a 2. A 6 and a 2 is a rare bounty, and a 2 is hard luck. So we do get 5 rations, which is nice. And then that we're going to count the Nightshade as D6 doses of that. So we get 5 rations. So we're back on short rations. And so we're going to stay the same here. And it will end the week. Everyone is going to pop up, move up 1 for water because they've been getting water for 1 week. So this is all going to be 0, 1 all the way down here. And then we're going to have 1/2 and 2/3 for the wounded Brun-Dax. And that will be the end of our week. We're camped out here. We have discovered a stream, some Valcash, some Nightshade, some flax. There's a hill here, 100 feet wide and 140 feet tall. And there's grass all around and hills over here, forest up there. So we're going to go ahead and stay here probably for next week. It looks like everyone who is... Okay. So the men-at-arms at the end of the week, the men-at-arms are back in action. they have recovered. Wargame is out of action, and he was wounded, so he's going to come back. So he'll be back to he'll be recovered as well. Wargame is recovered. Karnesh and Raf, they are not going to be wounded either. They will also be recovered. Okay, so they have all recovered. And Brun-Dax is now going to move up to wounded and out of action for one more turn. So he will be at wounded / out of action. So that means that the following week, we can either stay here and do more exploring and foraging while Brun-Dax recovers, or we can start moving and put Brun-Dax on a sledge, a travois. So let's roll the dice. Out of these two, we need 2 yeses and a sun. Or a blank, and this needs to be a yes and a sun. So out of these 3 dice, we need 2 yeses and a sun. If this is a blank, this has to be a yes. If it's a no, they're not going to go. All right, so let's go ahead and roll and see what happens. We have 2 no's and a sun. So they are going to stay put for one more week and recover. So the group decides to stay put one more week and move on the following week. Mainly because they'll be able to do more effective foraging. They don't have any supplies. And that way they'll also, I think they want to, because they're here, and they don't want to run into the druid again. So what they'll probably do is head due south, and then once they've gone a few miles south, start heading southwest until they hit the shore or hit Karanis. And that's what they are going to do, because otherwise they might wind up in a lot more trouble with the mantises and the druid there. So that is our plan. That is the end of week 4 for Brun-Dax and company. Everyone has recovered. Brun-Dax is now just wounded and out of action, and the group has decided to stay put and forage and try to build up enough rations to be able to move on. They think they can get there, according to Raf. She believes they can get there in less than a week. And so we may do this on a daily basis, because if this is all grassland, they should be able to cover 1, 2, 3, 4 in one day, 1, 2, 3, 4 in 2 days. They should be able to get there in 3 days. So we may switch to daily. In fact, yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to switch to daily travel. But I am going to qualify that depending on rations. they have enough to do so. So stay put with more exploring. Okay, very good. That's the end of our episode. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. How long? That was just about an hour, so that took a little bit longer than I expected. It'll probably get shortened up a bit in the editing process. But again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And as always, keep on.